Have you ever wondered how websites are made? How Instagram knows where to put your photographs? How YouTube knows how to display your video? It all starts with one fundamental language, HTML5. Forget boring textbooks, today we're going to dive straight into the code, and by the end of this video you'll be able to build your very own web page. No prior experience needed, just yourself and your willingness to learn. I'm Dan Murphy, this is Talk Tech to Me. Let's get into it. First things first, a brief history lesson. So what exactly is HTML? Well, it stands for Hypertext Markup Language, but it didn't just appear out of nowhere. It has been evolving for the last 30 years, and to understand HTML5 and why it's so powerful, we have to look about where it all started. And it all started way back in 1991 with a guy called Tim Berners-Lee. And for anybody that's ever been to university, he is essentially the father of the internet. It was disputed for a while, but I think we can all agree that's where it all started. So in 1981, it was basically just text and links. No images, no color, just digital research papers. It was very boring, very primitive, but it solved a really important problem at the time. Now, moving on to 1995, we have HTML2, and it was a massive step forward. There was standardization across the board whenever it became sort of wider adopted, and this version brought with us forms, which is probably the main sort of influence at the time then as well. And for the first time, you could actually type information into a website, so you were able to receive information yourself through a website you built on HTML2. Roll on 1997 with the invention of HTML 3.2. The point 2 is important. This was essentially the Wild West, and when things really became mainstream and broke out from where it was just research oriented then as well. This was the introduction of tables, and that allowed text to wrap around images, and essentially browsers were essentially fighting a war to see who could sort of produce the most features quickly. This really is the era of the browser wars. Moving on from then, it was 1999 and HTML 4.01 was released, and this reigned for a long time. We were essentially using HTML 4.01 right up until HTML5 came along in 2014. So HTML 4.01, this one was standardized for over a decade. It separated content from style formats with something known as CSS, or content style sheets then as well, but relied heavily on plugins, Silverlight and Flash, to play video and to music on the browser. This was one of the main drawbacks of HTML4 and something that was solved with HTML5. It came along in 2014 and essentially it's the modern era, and we've been using it ever since. So this changed everything. It killed the need for extra plugins, and now video, audio, and complex graphics can be built directly into the browser. It also came about because computers are far more powerful nowadays. Chrome and Perplexity and all that use up so much RAM that essentially your browser is using far more of your computer resources instead of the web the web servers having to do all the heavy lifting. So that's where HTML5 came about. It's been around since 2014, and it's a lot more feature-rich than its predecessors used to be. So let's get into some examples. Now, let's start with the basics. All HTML files follow the same structure, regardless of what the website is. There's a few key ingredients that every one of them needs to have. Now, they need to start with a declaration, something to say that this is a HTML5 file, and that essentially is the exclamation mark dot type HTML. Very first line in every HTML file, and that essentially is declaring to your web browser or to whatever is looking at this file that this is a HTML file, and that's what type of file it is, and that's what it should be treated as. The next one is going to be HTML language equals EN, and you're essentially declaring that you're going to be writing this file in English. This is the English language. If you change the EN to SP, it's going to be Spanish then as well. So it's basically letting the web browser or the compiler know that this file is in English language. Next one is the head tag, and all HTML follows the same kind of sequence. Bracket, bracket, head. You put the word head in between, and then whenever you want to add that, it's bracket, bracket, /head. And you'll see this is a common theme throughout working with HTML files as well. The header of a HTML file contains the metadata. This is the stuff about your page, like the title. This is what you're going to see in the little tab at the bottom of the very top whenever you have it open in a web browser. Next, we're going to look at meta character set, and we're going to set it to UTF-8. This is basically going to say this is the keyboard language we're going to use, and these are the character sets that we're going to use. So it has all the standard sort of 26 characters that you see in a keyboard, plus exclamation mark, hashtag, and all that there. So essentially it's defining these are the characters of my keyboard that are going to be declared in this file. Next is Meta name equals viewport. Now this one is really important because it essentially makes it look good on your phone and tables, and it's all about sort of formatting it so that whenever you put it onto a phone and not a laptop or a desktop, it's going to format and look correctly then as well. So it's always really important you have that one in. Even if you think your website's never going to be viewed by on a mobile phone, that is the key step. Next is the title, and the title is brackets title text brackets slash title then as well, and everything in between the two title tags then as well is going to get essentially the very top level of your website then as well. And the first thing you're going to see, so change this to anything you want, this is what appears in the browser tab then as well. I'll show you that in a second. Next we'll move on to the body, and the body in much the same way is brackets body brackets slash body, and everything you put inside these two body declarations is going to be the main body of your website then as well. Let's get into a really basic example. Now, next example, let's play around with text a little bit. Now you can see there at the very top we have H1. Essentially H is for header and 1 is for the size of the header. H is run from 1 to 6. So if I change this header to a 4, I need to do the same this side, 4, it should make that smaller. If I go to 6, and if I go to 6, yep, we made it absolutely tiny. So 1's biggest, 6 the smallest. Next one down below that is your H2. This is like always your subheader then after your main header. So anytime you're building, imagine like you wrote a blog and you want your sort of overarching text, this is sort of your subheader then as well and what it's going to do. Next is P, and P is for paragraph, and essentially anything inside a paragraph is just text. So you can see there our third line is just raw HTML text. It's written as it comes up here then as well. Next, in the second line then we have two little formatting options here. We have strong, which essentially is going to bold, and it's going to convert that into bold text, and then we have EM, which is going to italic it, and you can see that straight away then. So you're starting to see how the basics of websites are built down as well. There's lots of other little fancy things you can do with that, but that is sort of the basics. If you want to make a really basic simple blog post, well, you can pretty much do it with what you have here. On to the next example. Okay, I am going to show you how this all works now. Now, you're going to need a code editor or something to actually write your code into that's going to compile and run it for you. VS Code is probably my preference of choice because it's free, it's widely available, and it's really secure and frankly quite easy to use. But for this example, I'm going to do something different. I built a really quick little application using Google AI Studio where essentially anything I paste on this side, it's going to show me in real time on this side. So I can make changes and it's going to quickly show them. Now I'm going to paste in a very basic piece of code. Now, as before, we had our declaration. So this is of type HTML. Then we are setting our language. And then we're in the head tag, which is everything here. We're doing a few things here. Number one, we're setting our keyboard language to UTF-8. We're creating the name then as well. So it's going to use, we set the meta name to viewport so that we can see it on mobile phones, and the content and the width and all is essentially going to scale with this then as well. And then we put the title in, My Awesome Web Page. It's going to come up here essentially on the top as well of your web page. And then finally we have the body tag. So let's not let the habit of a lifetime fail me. Here we are. So there we are. That's probably the most simple web page you could ever imagine. It literally has just one small line of text. And you can see there, anything I put in there is going to show me straight away on this side. So if you're looking at building basic HTML code, this is a perfect place to learn because you can show in real time. And if something works or doesn't work, you can also see that if you delete out one of your tags, if I delete a body, it should stop working. I know. On to the next example. Now, next we're going to get a little bit more interactive. You still have your H1, H2s for your header. You have your little body of text, and then you've got strongs and bolds. Next thing on the list is we're going to work with images. So to do an image, you start with IMG, and you don't need to put an IMG at the end. It's essentially self-decorating. So anything inside these brackets from start to finish is going to be for your image. Now, SRC is source of image. So for our source of image for this one, it's going to be a different website. And then the ALT essentially is the alternative text. So if this image doesn't load, this text is going to get displayed. And you can see there that this text is getting displayed because that image is not loading. Now, I'm going to change the source of this image to something that I know does work. So if I take this image and I put it in instead of that one, there we go. My image is loading. Now I just got a little dog picture that I found on the website. And you can see you're already starting to embed other images from different places on the website, different parts of the internet onto yours. You can also change that to a directory. So it's going to be a web server, or it's going to be your local machine. You can change your HTTPS to C semicolon to whatever it's going to be. Now, next down the line, we want to deal with links and hypertext links to other websites then as well. So to do a link, it's essentially an A record, and then you do need to declare an end of it then as well. So you need a start and an end date, start and an end declaration on that. href then essentially is the destination of it, and for this one it's going to be W3 schools, target is blank, and then you can put in some text where you actually want it for what you want to say. So if you look over here, you can see that visit is normal text, and then for HTML tutorials, so your W3S school, which is there, is the thing that actually is going to get turned into blue to make it into a link. And if I click this, it takes me to an external website, link down below. And then there's just another example down as well where the target takes you to Twitter, which doesn't even exist anymore. On to the next one. Now, next, let's talk order. And I like to have a bit of order. In HTML5, there is a bit of a structure when you're trying to get lists together then as well. You have OL, which are unordered lists, UL, which are ordered lists, and LI, which are line items then as well. And so you can see there, you start off with a OL, and everything inside that OL is going to be an ordered list, and then everything with an LI beside it essentially is going to be a line item in that. In this one, we have ULs, which is your ordered list. Sorry, OLs, which is your ordered list. And every time you put one in here, let me just do an example. It should brackets, bravo, brackets, yay. So there you go, number 5. I didn't have to number that. Essentially, it just recognized that it was the 5th one in that order, and it's ordered them like that accordingly. If you do it in this one, if I take that line item and put it up there, it's just going to give it a bullet point. So that's where you have ordered lists and unordered lists, and then line items within each of those different types then as well. Really handy way to make lists in HTML. Now, next, let's look at a basic table structure then. So in this table, we have 3 columns and 4 rows with essentially a header in each one of them. You have your normal H1 and H3 headers. So welcome to my first page, my learning progress, and then you're going to start your table off, and your table call, everything falls within that table call. And then within this, you're going to have 3 threads. One thread, your first thread is essentially going to be your top level, which declares all your rows, and then you'll have 3 underneath that then as well. So inside each one of these, you have a TR, a TR, and a TR, and those are your 3 table rows then as well. So everything needs to go sequentially. Skill, HTML5, CSS, JavaScript. Then you're going to have status, learning, beginner, future. Next step, practice, start, learning more then as well. And you can start to see everything gets neatly nested in upon itself then as well. We'll talk about CSS in a minute, where you can start formatting this to make it look pretty. Now, next we're going to look at simple forms. And like imagine, everything comes within the form tag. So everything inside here is going to form this form. Now there's a couple of options, there's a couple of things to note here. The first thing you're going to do is the action. So what happens whenever the submit of this is done? And this would probably route it to a database or somewhere where it's going to store that information. There is no action on this one, so we're just leaving that as it is, and then essentially it's post, which means happens after this action occurs. Each one of these fields then you're going to need a label tag. So your label for this one is name inside a label form, and then BR means space. So after this you put on to the next line, and on the next line you're going to have your essentially this little box here for your name. So it's of type text. So if you put in numbers, it's not going to accept it. Its ID is name, and its username is expecting a username. That's essentially what's going to get sent into the database to be stored as. And then placeholder essentially is the text that you can see there, your name, and it is required. So if you leave this blank and you hit submit in this form, it will throw you back an error. Much the same way that we have email, it's of type an ID email, and it's actually going to be expecting an @ symbol then as well, and shows you the placeholder, and then it gives you a little sort of 2 lines, BR, moves on to the message tab then as well. And message one is slightly different. It is of type message, and it gives you 5 rows to play around with. So you can put in a larger bit of text in that one as well. And then this last one here, which is the wee checkbox. Yes, it is a checkbox or a boolean. So yeah, it can be yes or no kind of thing. So ID subscribe, and then again the text in for it then as well. And the last one is of type button. So it's button on and then / button then as well. And then you have the text in for send message. And essentially once that is clicked, the submit button, it will call this post action then as well. So this is a really basic way to make a very simple form to submit details or bring you on to the next page of your website or whatever your sort of post action is going to be. Let's start bringing this together and making something that looks remotely like a website. So in this example, we have our header. And then you have my awesome HTML5 page. Also within this header, we're bringing in the nav section then as well, where essentially we're starting to put navigation links like you would see on the tip of the website. And it's nav, ul, li. So you're doing an unordered list, and then you have sort of 2 items here at the minute, which and both of them are hrefs. So they're links to all the parts of your website. So we have about us and contact pages then in the mix. So you're starting to see how this is starting to look like a generic, fairly mainstream kind of website. Now moving then, we have the main body of the website, and within this you'll notice that we're starting to use something called sections, and sections are just a nice way of sort of breaking up content on a page. If it is going to be a long page, instead of doing BR and putting lots of breaks in it just to flow down the page, you can actually use sections, and that will sort of put a nice little format and break between each one of them then as well. And in these sections, it's paragraph, bold, strong, and then we're putting in images then again and placeholder for images whenever they're not loading. This is just an example. And then the last thing we have here is a footer. And a footer essentially is that nice little line of text you get at the bottom of nearly every website. 2026 my awesome, all right reserved, trademark, limited kind of thing then as well. So yeah, that's the very last line or the very last thing displayed on your website. On to the next example. Everything we've built so far has been very basic, very straightforward, just to get you up and running on sort of what HTML can and can't do. And so now I want to flex a bit and show you something that I built using a code editor, but all in HTML5, and I've edited it and adjusted it for essentially what I want to display. This is a live website. It's something I built myself, and I've actually got it hosted at the minute. I'll put the link in the description below, but it's hosted directly from my GitHub repository. So if you're curious, danielmurphy02330.github.io/ai-infographics-2026. And look at this beauty. Look at the styling of it. Look at the features of it. Look, it's got rollover text. This is all HTML5. There's no JavaScript, there's no Python or anything running in that. This is everything that's possible. Look at this. All this is possible within HTML5. So you're not calling JavaScript and different libraries and that there. It's all just here. And to prove it, here it is. This is one file. There's a README, which has nothing in it. And then there's one HTML file that's stored. And that's it. That's all the content for this site. It's all listed there. And to prove it, I'll copy it and put it into my code editor. There we go. Now, let's go way back to the top because this is tiny. You can see doc type HTML, English. You got your head, and then you got your declaring your keyboard layout, and you're making sure it's okay for both phones, and then you get your title set up, and there's my title, Chatbots to Homes Agents. You're starting to see, and then yeah, we're starting to call in sort of little bits and pieces then and get you up and running. But yeah, it's all there. I'll put this link in the description below. On to the conclusion. So there you have it. That's HTML5. I think it is one of the fundamentals that everybody should know. Anybody, especially that is involved in technology or education and wants to understand the internet a bit more, I would highly recommend doing a bit of HTML5, do a bit of editing, build a little website themselves, get it up and running. It's something you could learn in an afternoon. It is absolutely not rocket science, and there's loads of cool tools out there to help you along the way then as well. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. I've really enjoyed making this one. It was nice to take a massive step back. I know I sort of on the cutting edge of AI and everything advanced going on, but sometimes it's nice to go back and look at where we came from to understand where we're going. I've been Dan Murphy. This is Talk Tech to Me. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.